Hi guys and girls, sorry about not putting the video up last week. I got a little bit sidetracked. I had to redo 10 videos for my dodging and burning training title. That was hard work. That was, I had to completely redo them. I won't say why, but it was my fault. I'm going to get the end bit over and done with, so if you enjoy this video and you're not subscribed, please go and click the subscribe button down below and click the little ringety-tingety bell to get a notification the next time I put a video up. And 1,068 subscribers. Wow! I can't believe it. Thank you very much. And come here. This video is not sponsored by Squarespace, but it is brought to you by the kind generosity of all my supporters over on Patreon. Yes, thank you very much, guys. So, yeah, two lots of people to thank. Patreon members and you lovely YouTube subscribers. So, I do, on my videos, ask my subscribers and viewers for topics on things to do videos on. And hardly anybody ever asks me for anything. And really and truly, guys, I do wish you do, because sometimes I sit here scratching my head wondering what you'd like to see a video on, and I invariably get it wrong. So so please in the comments below ask me for videos on anything you want, as long as it's photography related, of course. And yeah, or if you don't want to do it in the comments, just email me. All right, that's that all sorted. And let's get on, because I did have an email the other day asking about white balancing in Photoshop, and it took me quite a while to find an image which is virtually impossible to white balance inside of Lightroom, but really easy to white balance inside of Photoshop. So we're going to do that in a moment, but just let me just say one thing. For landscape photography and general wildlife photography, white balance is something that you can treat somewhat subjectively, as long as you're in the right ballpark. If you're trying to create a bit of mood or atmosphere in your shot, then white balance doesn't really figure very highly, because if you've got a misty landscape that is backlit by the sun and you're wanting to underexpose to get all this orange haze, then white balancing is just a complete utter waste of time, isn't it? But the only real place where, or the only two real places off the top of my head that I can think about where white balance is absolutely fundamentally critical would be wedding and portrait photography and product photography. And especially with product photography, all product photographers use things like this, and things like, when I can get it out, things like this. Alrighty. Grey cards, in other words. But when it comes to shots like this, I mean, you know, I could try asking the wood pigeon to hold this while I took a shot to get a reference, but somehow I don't think that would go down very well, do you? So we do have to have a correct white balance on a shot like this, otherwise it's not representative of the species, if you like. So white balance is quite critical, and I mean, this has got all sorts of faults with it. It's not the world's best shot, that's for certain. Just taken just across the road from our kitchen window. But I'm just going to do a straightforward process version swap on it to get the contrast under control, and then I might put the exposure back a little bit, rather like that, to probably just bring it down a little tiny bit, probably minus 0.35. Yeah, but we've now got the contrast under control, but it is a really difficult shot to white balance. The pigeon itself, lots of people think wood pigeon are grey. They're not. They are all sorts of different colours, and neutral grey ain't one of them. But I'm going to show you firstly how difficult it is to white balance in Lightroom. And you know, you could think that this was a neutral grey, but then everything goes yellow. Yeah, we could actually therefore think that this grey here, because it's in the shade, that might be alright, but that'd make it go yellow. We could think, well, we've got a galvanised lamppost here, maybe that'll do the trick. And if we white balance in there, everything sort of goes reddy magenta. And yeah, it's just an absolute nightmare. So if I go back through my history, and so what I'm going to do now is shove this over into Photoshop. This is a method of white balancing that you can find on other channels on YouTube, but they always demonstrate it on a JPEG. It's quite easy to do. You use the same principle, the same workflow that I'm going to show you. But when you're working on a JPEG, remember you've only got 256 tones, or potential tones, or brightness levels in that image. So this is quite easy to do. When you come to do it on a RAW file, it is really tricky. And so you have to be very, very, very precise. But the one thing I want to show you, one thing that's critical when you're white balancing, is you are lost. Any product or portrait photographer is lost without one of these or a neutral grey card. And it is the neutral grey, the 50% grey balance, which is the balance which is actually going to set the colour, or the colour balance or the white balance of the image, more than either your black or white point. So in Lightroom, you can't do what I'm going to do here. We're going to fake the actual grey, neutral grey, white balance. And doing that's quite simple. We do it with layers and blend modes, but I need to explain to you the blend mode that is critical to get that grey balance, and it is the difference blend mode. So how can I best describe the difference blend mode? If I duplicate this image into a new layer and I switch it from the normal blend mode to the difference blend mode, the entire image goes black. Now what the difference blend mode is doing, it's looking at the pixels directly above and below each other in the layer stack, and if the pixels are identical, the difference is nothing, 0. And what colour is 0? Black, yes. So if I was to get my move tool and just move this top layer, now it's gone looking like a stained glass window, hasn't it? But now the pixels are out of alignment, so a lot of them are different between the top layer and the bottom layer. So what this difference blend mode does is show you the differences between pixels in different layers, and of course where the pixel difference is 0, it shows up black. So bearing that in mind, what we're going to do is first of all bring in a new empty layer, and we're going to go to edit, when we can do it properly, fill, and we're going to fill it with 50% grey. We are now going to put that in the difference blend mode, and we are going to turn it off. We're then going to add, and we can do it from either here or we can do it from here. We're going to add a curves adjustment layer, and I might as well go down here to do this, to show you the other way of adding it. We can add a threshold layer, but of course that threshold layer could have been brought about by just clicking on that icon there in the adjustments panel. So we've got a curves layer which we are going to turn off. Now what is it with this threshold layer? So if we go to the properties of the threshold layer, this is where we can find our whites and our blacks. So if I take this slider and I move it all the way to the right, you can see I am isolating the white pixels in the image, and we'll keep going and keep going and keep going until they all disappear. And I'm just going to grab hold of my mouse because these pen tools can get a little bit wibbly wobbly when you're trying to do things very precisely. So we're just going to come back a little bit, and then we're going to get our zoom tool or our magnify tool, and we're going to blow this up as big as we can. So this is the brightest point in our image, and we're going to come and get our colour sampler tool, and because that's the colour sampler, that's the colour picker. We could also use the colour picker tool and hold down the shift key, but I always like to use the proper tools. So we'll come in here and we'll just drop a point in there, and you can see we've now got a number by that point, that little crosshair, and you can see it corresponds to number 1 here. So it's giving us the RGB readout for the value over here in the image and in the mask itself. So we're now going to double tap on the hand tool to bring it back to a fit to screen view, and we're going to swing it all the way to the left until we've got no black showing, and then we'll just gradually move it to the right until we start to see black. And the most persistent black is this one here. So what we're going to do is we're going to magnify up, and we don't really need, if you were white balancing a JPEG, you wouldn't need to keep going in at such high magnifications and being so precise with your colour sampler tool. And you also notice up here my colour sampler tool is set to a 3x3 average, and I'm just going to click in there, and that will give us number 2, which is my black point. Right, now then we're going to double click again, and I'm now going to activate this difference blend mode 50% grey layer. Now then, everywhere that's black inside this image, if it was a 256 level 8-bit image, we could safely say that all those blacks would represent a mid-grey or a 50% grey. But that's not strictly true when we're working on a raw file. We have to be a little bit more precise than that. So what we're going to do is come down until we've just got some black actually in the subject. And this is the thing, when you're working with a JPEG and you're doing this method, you can sort of click anywhere that seems to be relevant within the image. But if you're doing this on a raw file, really and truly, you need to be working with tones on your subject. And we're going to come in with a colour picker tool again, and we are just going to sample where? We'll just sample in there, number 3. So we've now got 3 points, 1, 2 and 3. 1 is our highlight, 2 is our black point, and 3 is our supposed middle grey. So now we're going to come out to a fit to screen view temporarily, and I'm going to turn off the threshold layer, and I'm going to turn off the difference blend mode fake 50% grey layer, and I'm just going to activate the curves adjustment layer, and we will just pull out the properties panel rather like that so we can see what we're doing, and we'll move it over so we can see our tools. And we've got these 3 eyedroppers, and this could just as easily be a levels adjustment layer. It doesn't have to be a curves adjustment layer. Curves or levels will do the same job, because these 3 colour pickers here, this is our black point, this is our white point, and this is our grey point. So we've got 3 colour pickers, or 3 colour samplers, and we've got 3 colour sampler points. We've got our highlight, our black, and our midpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to magnify the image up, and we're going to start at the top, and we're going to come to the black point. So we're going to really dial in here, and then we're going to get our black colour picker, and this is why I'm using a mouse, because you really do have to be precise. And we're just going to line up those crosshairs, and we're going to sample that black point and set it. We're then going to come out to fit to screen view, switch back to the magnify tool, and I'm going to magnify up on this, which is our mid-grey. And we're going to get the middle eyedropper, and we're going to come over very precisely and just go click and set that grey point. Now then, what are we going to do? We might as well hold down the spacebar key and scroll across, and here is our white point. So now we're going to pick up our white point eyedropper, and we're going to come in and very precisely go click. Alrighty. So we're going to now dock the panel again, and we're going to come out to a fit to screen view. Now, two things. If I turn this layer off and turn it back on, off, on, it has done two things. It has colour balanced our image, but it's also put the contrast up. Now, if you were working with a super low contrasty image, this might suit you. But if the image is looking too dark or too contrasty, the simple thing to do is to change its blend mode from that of normal, come all the way down and change it to colour. Alright, so that image is now white balanced. And if we turn it off, and then we turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, you can see how much more neutralised this wood pigeon is. Let's take it up to a slightly higher magnification so we can see the wood pigeon in all its glory. Let's just sort of centre him around there. And we'll go and turn the layer off, on, off, on. If we turn him off, you can see it's got this yellowy red colour cast to it, which is not surprising really, because he's sitting on top of a red brick wall, and just behind this lamppost is a telegraph pole. And it's one of those days where we've got very high thin veil cloud across the sun, so it's very, very bright, but it's gentle. It's not really super harsh, and that's when you start getting colour casts all over the place and sort of strange localised colour casts. And we've still got a colour cast which you'd expect from these bricks, but the image in itself is looking an awful lot better when we turn the colour correction layer, or this curves layer, back on in the colour blend mode. So there you go, guys. I hope that's been useful for you. I just need to go through one thing. If we go and click on our colour sampling points, and then we come and hover next to them, we'll see a little arrow cursor, and if we right click we can delete and delete and delete, and then we could go layer, we go flatten image, discard the hidden layers, we don't need those, and we could go file and we could go save, and that would just save the image in its colour corrected state back to Lightroom, where we could go and title it, keyword it, caption it, and export it as a JPEG and send it up to Microstock or wherever. So there you go. Not the world's best image of a wood pigeon, but it's certainly now quite well white balanced. And remember, we couldn't get this white balance no matter how hard we tried inside a Lightroom, because we couldn't manage to do another shot previously where we persuaded the wood pigeon to actually hold a grey card for us. Okay. As I said at the start, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, click the subscribe button if you're not already a member, and please, 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 will you send me ideas for videos that you want to see me do. Alright guys, thanks again for subscribing. Thanks again for being my Patreon member, if you are one of my Patreon members. And until the next time, I shall see thee. Yes, I will. Tooroo.